Hi, listeners. Welcome to Heaven Can Wait podcast. I'm your host, Morten Wolf. This podcast and my website is all helping you to be able to transform your life so you can also feel healthier, happy, and stronger. And I'm inviting regular guests on my podcast and basically so they can share their experiences with you. And today we have a really wonderful, interesting woman from Copenhagen. She's a 57-year-old Danish, Norwegian, American woman. So you can hear that's already interesting in itself. She was actually born in the US and adopted by Norwegian parents, 8 months old. And at certain stage, very young in her life, she actually moved to Christiania. And she's had a little bit of a roller coaster of a life with lots of ups and downs. And basically, I mean, what I even want to start the conversation with is that there is a place in Copenhagen called Christiania. And I can understand from when you moved there, that was in the beginning when Christiania was founded. Was that right?
Yes, I'm on. I wasn't sure if I was.
Yes, that was in the 70s, wasn't it?
I moved here in 74 and Christiania was formed in 72. So, yes.
So that was very early on.
It was very early on. I was very young.
Yeah. I mean, you must have been, if I kind of can do my math correctly,
11.
You must have been 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah. Any parents out there, do not do this at home.
No, I mean, that's a very unusual age to move away from home. I mean, is there a reason why you moved so early?
Yeah, in retrospect, I could say that we moved from the States when I was young. I was 9.5 when we moved from the US. And my father died 6 months later, and my mother fell apart because that was her soulmate, the love of her life, basically. And she didn't have time to sort of help me adjust in my life. Luckily, being adopted, I believe that one gets some skills, life skills. You know how to fight. You're a survivor, basically. That is my theory about it, about being adopted. And I just found somebody else who did want to take time and had time for me and could sort of be my guidance kind of thing. Don't know if it was the healthiest choice in life, but they were good people. They were so-called hippies in Norway. And I went on a road trip to Christiania, which is this free town, which is based upon the political idea is that everybody should be allowed and everybody should be able to live without having to work 24/7, 2 jobs and to pay their mortgages and stuff. So everybody, all different classes, should be able to have a place to stay and get a roof over their head. So there's all different kinds of people in Christiania. So I came down here and I literally fell in love. Went back home to Norway, of course, because I was very young, and ended up coming back here to my mother's biggest grief, because she was in no capable state of really, I was stronger than her at the time. I told her how this was going to play out. You know, you either respect that I'm going to move now and we'll take all the other stuff later on, school and all that, or you'll never hear from me again. I was a bad girl.
So she just had to accept that, basically. She did that.
Well, of course, it wasn't that easy, but I suppose she just didn't have the energy. I've always been considerate in a weird way. It doesn't sound considerate, but it was, because I sort of said to my mom, this is something that I need to do. And I also made a deal with her that I would catch up with school later on. But I also told her that if I was going to go to school now and my life was just torn up, I moved from the States, a place that I loved and I felt at home, came to Norway, had nothing really because my father died, and my mother in a way disappeared as well because she was so grief struck.
Yeah, of course.
So so I didn't really have anyone. She got my aunt to come in, who's never had kids, so she was really weird. I love her to bits. I loved her to bits, but she was very weird in that situation. She came in and thought she was going to be my mom, and I thought, nope, not happening. This I can't deal with. So we had a talk about it, and my mom was actually she was actually a really, really cool woman. So she actually came up to school with me, and we talked to the headmaster, because you're not allowed to just jump out of school. So she talked to the headmaster with me, and we made an arrangement that I would take it as a private student later on. I don't know what that would be in English, but basically it means that when you go to school at a later if you drop out of school, you have to take all the exams. So it's every subject, orally and written, you have to go up, you have to take it. So I did that later on, but I got actually a permission, one of the few people in Norway that had actually a permission to drop out of school at that age. But my mom didn't know that I was going to Christiania, and neither did I, but that was step one.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, Christiania is a very unusual place. I mean, it was a former military place, wasn't it? And it was always taken over by the hippies in the 70s.
Well, it was actually, at the time, I don't think they were really classed as hippies. They were like sort of proactive, they were activists. They were politically engaged. It was a political statement, that everybody should be allowed to have a roof over their head, even if they're unfortunate enough to not have an education, not have a background with money, or this, that, and the other. Inclusive instead of excluding.
Yeah.
Because at the time it was, as it is now, again, very difficult to get a place to live without a lot of money, basically.
Yeah, because I mean, it's in the center of Copenhagen. I mean, it's in a prime location.
Really. Yeah, and it's also the time, that the prices are so high, and in the 70s it was as well, and it was just difficult to get a place to live.
So how did you have to build your own place, or how did that work then? I mean.
Well, I was a quite cute wee chick, so I stayed with some guys in the beginning. I actually did cleaning and stuff, literally. I just, I came down here, and I've always been quite open and social. So I was like sort of saying, hey, this place is amazing. Can I do anything? Can you give me some money? No, can you give me? Is there anything I can do to make my way?
Yeah.
And being an American citizen, I was actually illegal here at the time as well. So, I couldn't just go and get Social Security money, or I had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, basically. I suppose that was the subconscious thing. So there was people who actually hired me. They said, right, you can clean, or I could go and collect pizzas or whatever it was that people needed. I did wash clothes, or, and then I got my
living, basically.
Yeah, basically just doing chores.
Yeah. I mean, I did find, I lived in Copenhagen for a while. That was in the early 80s and so on. It was always a very interesting place, because it was a place where you could go and get your cannabis, and I can remember when I went out there, it was actually, there was a gang running the place to a certain extent at that time. I think they were called Bullshit. And I can remember there was more dogs than humans out there at a certain stage. It was a really interesting place. And the cannabis market, that's what I can remember from that time, of course, is as a young person, you kind of something like cannabis and alcohol, and you're interested in all these things, of course. And cannabis was one of the things, and it was like a fruit and veg market out there.
Yeah, it's forbidden fruit.
Yeah, forbidden fruit, yeah. And it was just one of these things, but Christiania must have had its ups and downs too throughout the years then,
Oh, definitely. Politically, we've been threatened to be thrown out all our lives, but now I can't remember exactly when it happened, but we became a social experiment, because they realized that we were actually, I think we're about just under between 8 and 900,000. No, sorry, 8 or 900 people registered in Christiania.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people, because by law in Denmark, everybody is entitled to a roof over their head. But that would mean that they would have to find a lot of housing for a lot of people if they were to close it down. So the government at the time thought, well, it's easier to call it a social experiment and see, what happens if we throw this group of people, of weirdos, basically, which we were classed as at the time, into this area, and let's see how they cope. Yeah. They didn't expect that we're turning 50 next year, though.
No, that's amazing, and they still have allowed it to exist, basically. It is a wonderful place. So if anybody goes to Copenhagen, they should go and visit Christiania.
Absolutely, my door is open.
Beautiful place, yeah. Very interesting. So yeah. I can understand also is that because of all the drugs out there and so on.
I have to stop you there, because one thing I have to say about Christiania to everybody who's listening is that Christiania is really, really anti-drugs, and cannabis in Denmark is not considered a drug as such. It's a difference. It's not like they do have a differentiating from hard drugs and
soft drugs,
cannabis. Yes. So it's just very important to make that
I know
connection.
you're right. I mean, it's not something you can find out there. It is literally cannabis.
And if you do, then if we find people that are actually dealing harder drugs, we have they will be offered, for example, they could be offered a rehab, a possibility of rehab, or if they're not interested in actually deal, and then we would help them pay the rent actually, or it would be helped through the Christiania commune kind of thing, and the Social Security. We would help them get the rent paid while they're in rehab, or they will have to leave.
So there's a group of people that helps too. I mean, how do you control that things go the way they should do out there? Is there a little government out there? Is there some people that are in a committee that controls the place, or how do you police the place then?
It's run on consensus. So what we have is we're divided into, and I never get it right, but we have quite a lot of areas. Let's say it's 11 areas. I don't really remember, actually, to be very honest. But we're divided into areas that once a month we have an area meeting where we talk about Christiania today. It has to be said that we own Christiania now through a fund, as opposed to in the 70s where we were just, what do you call it, occupants. We were, what do you call it? When you... Squatting.
Squatters.
Yeah, squatters. Right, we were just literally squatting a big area that then became the social experiment. Now we've actually bought the area. But what happens
is... I wasn't aware of that. No, I wasn't aware.
Oh, really? It's Christiania Fund, and I'm actually working there at the moment.
Yeah.
So basically they put issues out. For example, at the moment we're talking about, we actually only own the grounds that we're living on, or renting the grounds kind of thing. We own it, rent it. It's a really weird thing. But we don't own God, some words are very difficult when you never use it. What's vault in English? And vault.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's kind of a hill, isn't it? It's kind of
it's because it's the whole military. Yeah, exactly. So they had that kind of a hill all around the area where the military had cannons in the olden days and stuff to protect, basically, because it's down by the water, right? And that part we don't own. So that is actually under a protected law. So we're trying to actually get that involved in Christiania, because there's houses on top of these hills that they want to take down because it's protected area and so forth. But anyway, the area meetings decide something. They have two representatives that go up to the next meeting, which is called a contact group meeting, which I'm actually involved in. Yeah. And they take up, like, if I have something in my area that I would say that I think it's unfair, or I've registered that there's somebody selling hard drugs, what do we do about the thing? These two people go up to the next meeting, talk about it, and the top authority is the common meeting. It's a fellesmøde, so which means that the whole of Christiania is invited to discuss how do we deal with this issue. Is there any option, what are the options? And that is the top. So basically it's the whole of Christiania is involved if they want to, but it's a very long and hard and also time consuming process to be consensus run. So it means that there is sort of a group of people that are more involved than others, because we do have a lot of people, it's the same everywhere, in politics, it's the same everywhere. Yeah. It's a bit of a tricky thing to try and explain in English, because it's actually tricky to explain in Danish even.
But it doesn't exist anywhere else, really. I mean,
well, not many places anyway. No, they do have similar places. They have a place in the States that is quite similar that Christiania sort of has some contact with, but I don't know enough about that to but it's like a town. Of course, we have Danish laws, and of course we have to
follow the laws. Yeah,
we have to follow the law, but we do have also some, what do you call it, agreements with the government that we're allowed to do things slightly differently. So yeah.
No, very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like kind of I don't know if you know the term Burning Man.
Yes.
Around the place.
Yeah. A lot of Christiania people go, or Christianita as they're called, go to Burning Man.
It's like this, money is not important there. You share with each other, and Yeah, it's kind of an interesting concept. I would like to go to one of them. I mean, a common
Yes,
friend of ours,
that's
Frank. I mean, they have a Burning Man
yes,
in South Africa, and he wants us
yeah,
to go down there in a couple of years, I think.
yeah,
So he's
yeah,
trying to arrange a lot of his friends to go to South Africa, and then we're all
yeah,
supposed to go to Burning Man. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but yeah,
yeah.
no, exactly. I mean, you also had at that time when you were quite young. I mean, you spent a couple of weeks behind bars, didn't you?
Ooh, I did indeed.
Yeah.
As everybody would say in prison, they would say I was innocent.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes.
um,
I suppose
yeah.
we all have had a confrontation with the law at some stages in our life, you know. I mean, in one way or the other.
But basically, you know what you were saying in the beginning, that Christiania was all to do about the times, you know. I mean, in the States, it was the 60s that was the cannabis and the flower power and the free love and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That didn't really hit here. Denmark has always been, or used to be, 10 years after, you know, or Europe used to like sort of come after. So it didn't really hit here until late 60s, early 70s, pornography and drugs and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose I would the people, as I started off by saying, the people that I met in Norway were hippies, and I got into smoking. I thought that was a quite nice way to relax, and you know, and it was just a time thing, I have to say. I don't do it anymore, but I mean, at the time, it was just something, you know, it was normal in a way. For a lot of people, it was very accepted in Denmark. In Norway, it was criminalized. So in a big time, you know, that was like a small joint would put you in prison, literally.
But I mean,
while in Denmark, you could actually smoke a joint or chill him, or you know, with you get a warning or something, you know.
But lifted finger from the.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't.
I think we've all been there. We've all been there, I think, at that time.
And I mean, even politicians in Denmark, you know, if you ask them, they say, "Yeah, I tried it when I was younger." You know, it was
a lot of people
pretty common. You know,
it was very
but
common.
in Norway, it wasn't, and I got involved with this really sweet guy, but it turned out to be the biggest drug guy or in cannabis in Norway at the time. So I was actually in isolation for over a month. But I didn't get any conviction because they couldn't prove it because I was innocent.
Yeah, you are an innocent woman. Of course you are.
Of course I am. But, you know, I smoked and I enjoyed that. And yes.
Yeah, and you were at some stage you got pregnant out there in Christiania, and you got a young son.
Well, we're jumping a lot of years, but yes, I did. I got a beautiful son.
Yeah, we are jumping a lot of years. Yeah, I mean, otherwise we're going to be here tomorrow, I think, when we're going to talk, because it is very interesting. And I mean, what's really interesting there is that, I mean, where you live and so on, I mean, there's a lot of families out there. And is there schools and kindergartens out there also?
There's no schools, but we do have nurseries. So we have nurseries. So from zero until you go to school, you have a place where you can apply to get your child in. And we do have after school. And we do have a youth club, as I call it, for the older ones. The thing with our kindergarten is I always chose to have my son outside of Christiania because Christiania is very special. And it was my choice to live in such a weird place, if you want to say, because it is a different, you know, very, very based on different ideals than well, it's not really, but it is, you know.
Yeah, it is.
So it is, you know, I mean, of course, we're all based on the same, as I said, the same laws and stuff, but I always thought that my son should have the choice of choosing what he wants to do with his life, where he wants to live, but I have to give him these options. So I started off from day one and got him out to the normal nurseries in Copenhagen, which was just right outside anyway.
Yeah, it's not a huge area.
It's not like we have a fence around it, but you know, it was normal, a normal institution, and then a normal school. Well, we don't have schools in here, but and then later on a private school, because I didn't want him to be so close to Christiania and be tempted by hash, and they do sell on the market, which is not legal. Or sell on the streets, sell hash and cannabis and stuff on the street.
But it must have been very difficult to bring up a child in a place like that. I mean, because with all the temptations that's out there.
It really, really, really was. I'm very proactive. So I went down and talked to the pushers, as we call them, the ones selling the cannabis. And I was like saying to them that they really have a responsibility to make sure that our young ones that are growing up in Christiania don't skive off school if they see them there in times when they're not meant to be there, because there are there's no hiding it.
No.
There's easy money to be, or not easy, because you give a lot of yourself to make money down there because everything is illegal, but still it's money to be made. And you know, if you're a 10, 12, 13-year-old kid and you can get 100 kroner for getting a pizza for someone doing something illegal, then you get sort of sucked in. Hey, this is easy money, you know?
I can imagine.
So I went down and I was very proactive, talked to the pushers and said, hey, this is my son, and pointed at him. And if you see him, then tell him to go back to school, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I know when you lift the finger, you know, they're going to listen.
Well, they actually did. And I do actually, but, you know, my son didn't. You know, so in that respect, so he was drawn, not that he necessarily did anything wrong, but I mean, he was, as a lot of the Christiania kids, he was drawn to, he wanted to see what the scene was all about, as did I at his age. And, you know, he just wanted to see what it was all about and make his own decision.
Yeah.
But, and I think that helped to not be in Christiania. There's a lot of kids, unfortunately, in Christiania, not everybody, this is generalization, and I have to be a bit careful, but at the time, there were kids that never sort of came out of Christiania. They didn't really know anything else but Christiania. And that, I think, can be a danger.
Yeah, and sad. Really.
You know, you don't have anything to choose, you know, because it's just the one thing. Alexander, at least, he had things to choose.
Yeah. No.
He chose differently. He chose
differently. Today he's a grown man and he's a wonderful. Okay, I've met him so many times when he was younger.
Yeah, he's part of your
wonderful kid,
background.
You know, and he's really made something of his life, so that's great.
Yeah,
and he doesn't live
really
out
a lawyer.
anymore. He lives in Copenhagen and has taken his degree and so on, and is now a lawyer. And I mean, that's just marvelous. So therefore, it doesn't really matter, you know, where you grow up and so on, so long you have the love and care from your parents and so on and support, then you can achieve anything in your life, can't you? You know?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. And I mean, if we again go a little bit further on, basically, I mean, you had some horrible experience in 2008.
Yep.
Yeah. You discovered that you had breast cancer, wasn't it? Right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I did.
And how did you discover that? I mean,
actually, I discovered it many, many years before. I discovered it about 5-6 years beforehand. I started getting really, really, really tired. This kind of tiredness that you just couldn't sleep your way out of. I was studying at the time, and I was just exhausted all the time. And I remember my partner was saying to me all the time, "Oh, you're so boring. You're always so tired." But I was exhausted. I really, really, it was a tiredness that can't be explained. And I went to the doctor many a times and I said, this cannot be normal, you know, as a young, vibrant woman, you know, and full of energy normally as a person, very energetic. And I just said, this is just so atypical. And he just said, oh, you're just a hypochondriac, actually. He used that word on me. And I was like, no, I know my body. I know me. And I know that this is something that is not right. There's something here that's not right. Find out what it is. But he sent me then to get some mammograph and stuff, and ultrasound scannings, and they couldn't find anything.
No.
And 3 months later, you know, I trusted authorities those days, sort of.
Of course, I mean, you're supposed to trust the doctor. Yeah, they're professional. So
you think they know what they're talking about?
Yeah.
Hey guys, you know, never trust anybody. Trust yourself. I mean, first and foremost, at least. Yes. And then you of course have to. You know, you have to trust that they then can maybe help you. But,
I mean, you feel yourself that, so you can feel yourself that there's something wrong with one, you know.
You just know that
even though the
wrong.
doctor, I mean, he can't go inside you and see the psychology. He can't see. He doesn't feel what you're feeling when you're in stuff like that. So therefore, it must also be difficult. I mean, particularly if you take some tests and nothing is showing up.
Yeah, but you know, I mean. Yeah, that's, I mean, a different story, but you know, my husband had a stroke, and I actually captured things before the scan actually captured. I said, things are going wrong here now. And the doctor took a scan and they said, no, Monica, you're just a paranoid wife kind of thing. And I said, no, I'm not. I can sense that this is not my husband. Things are happening inside his brain. And true enough, within 7 days, you know, they found out that it was things happening. He needed a new operation and so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter is that I went through this 5-year period where I didn't actually, where I just went back and forth to the doctor saying that, hey, you know, this is really weird. Something is happening. I got very, very dizzy as well. That was another symptom. where they called it this virus on the balance nerve,
Yeah, okay.
which in Norway, for example, doesn't actually exist. They say that that's what they just sort of say when they can't find the diagnosis.
I'm a chiropractor myself, and I do hear often people come in if they have dizzy spells. They've often been told that they have a virus on their nerve, and how are they going to diagnose a virus on their nerve? It's completely impossible. It is a bit of you guessing. You know?
Well, in Norway, they literally, doctors say that we don't use that term because that's what you say when you really don't know what it is.
No,
you
exactly.
just have to,
I agree fully. I agree fully. I do tell that to people also. It's not a virus on the nerve. I mean, how can they determine that's a virus on the nerve? It's often when they don't know what's going on. At the end, it's easy to tell to the patient you've got a virus on the nerve. You know,
people want to diagnose. They want to know.
Yes, exactly. And then you use that kind of term, and it's really it's not correct. I must admit, I don't agree with it.
You know what? I had that for when I actually got operated. When they actually found, well, just sort of in that one. Then eventually, after 5 years, I went to my gynecologist, and I woke up one morning, and my breast was deformed.
Yeah.
Literally, I just woke up one morning and then it happened because I didn't have a lump, as a lot of people do. I didn't have anything. I had a tiny bit of like, what do you call it? Cellulite. It looked like cellulite. No, it looked like cellulite.
Like orange peel.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And that's when I went to doctor and I said, hey, what's this and stuff? And he said, you're just getting old. I was under 40. I was 40 roundabout at that time.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I only have this much on one breast. Why? You know, I mean, normally you would have it other places on your body and stuff. Yeah. I just thought it was one of
the signs. Yeah, it is one of the signs.
It is, but I didn't know that at the time. And I didn't even think along those roads. I was just sort of thinking, hey, is this anything? I'm really tired. And then I did look it up, but it didn't actually come up at the time when I was when I was searching for it. Neither did dizziness and tiredness really at the time. I don't really know why, because I did actually look after a while because the tiredness didn't ease off. Yeah. But my gynecologist, when he saw my breast, he said, Monica, and I've known him for 20 years at the time, he said, Monica, I'm going to send you immediately. We were going on holiday the next day, and he said, I don't think you should do that. I think you should go and take a scan at a professional or a different place. Yeah. So I went and I got a scan and I went a mammogram. And it was babu from there because it was very big. They said that I'd had it for at least 10 years, and it fits actually with the whole period of time where I was tired, I was dizzy, I was not myself, literally.
Was that in 2008 then?
It was in 2008 I was diagnosed, but I started going to the doctor like round about 39-40ish.
Yeah.
And I started having symptoms before that where I didn't really know what it was. I just thought, I've had a heavy life kind of thing, or
No. It's important to notice these small changes, like you talk about the orange peel or inverted nipple or so on.
Yeah.
My mom was diagnosed with cancer when we were kids, and one of her first symptoms basically was a brain tumor, a pituitary tumor, which produces hormones and so on. And when I think back, I mean, okay, I was only a small kid, but when she was sitting in the sauna, we had a sauna, she was lactating. She was actually excreting a little bit of milk from her one breast.
Wow.
And that was 10 years before she was actually diagnosed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but I mean, of course, when I think back, I mean, yes, it could have been diagnosed much earlier.
Yes.
And the only way it got diagnosed was that she literally started getting tunnel vision because the tumor was pressing on her optic nerve.
Yeah.
And lost some of her peripheral vision.
Yeah.
That's how actually they discovered it at that time.
And you have to trust yourself.
Early teens, and it was horrible. I can remember because I mean she was in Odense, which is about 100 miles away from where we live. And we had to go over there and so on. And I can often remember from that time that because it was a brain operation, today they actually treat it with medication to keep the tumor in bay. It's a benign tumor, so it's not one that can metastasize. So, but because it causes pressure within the brain, it is important to actually, and also because it causes hormonal changes, it is important to treat. But today you can treat it with medicine, but at that time they couldn't. So they actually had to operate. Okay. And they operated to the side of her skull and so on. And I can remember when we saw her as a kid, when we were really small, I mean, she didn't recognize us. And that was one of the most horrible experiences I've had, I
Yes.
can remember, because I mean, having your mom not being able to recognize you as your
Yeah.
child, as a child,
Mm.
was just, and when you're only 10 or 11 years old,
Mm.
you know, it was horrible.
Yeah, that must have been really, really awful.
Basically, but there you see, I mean, it is really important. So some kind of small changes to your body, you know, is very
Always
important to
trust your
focus on.
instincts.
Yeah, you
I
have to
believe that
trust your instinct.
you have to, and you have to demand. They can call you whatever they want to call you, but you have to demand that they take you seriously because you are actually the expert on your own body.
Yeah.
You know.
Don't let yourself ask questions and say
Yeah,
why, you know, and don't
exactly.
be fobbed off with some kind of stupid
Nope.
answer. You know,
Nope.
think about it logically. Is this a logical thing that can happen to my body? If it's not, you know, then get it investigated and persist. I mean, I think
And that's
that's
what
one
my
of the,
gynecologist said as well. And that's
yeah,
what they actually said at the scanning place, because I told them the story that I'd been at my doctor that had just sort of brushed me off roughly every 3 months. I got worried and I went back and I said, yeah, but you know, are you sure that there's nothing wrong? You know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I actually had a breast cancer type that couldn't, now they've actually found out because my breast tissue was very tight, or whatever you call it,
yeah,
tittle. I don't
yeah,
really know how to explain
yeah,
it, but
yeah, yeah,
on
dense, very dense.
yeah, so
Yeah,
on the screen, it would be a white mass kind of thing.
yeah,
So it was very difficult to see. And they've actually found out now that women with that kind, this is new knowledge kind of thing, with
yeah.
women with that kind of breast tissue, actually they find it more difficult to find the cancer.
Yeah, because you're
So
looking for
women,
something white on the scan itself.
yeah, and it's
And if
sort
the
of
breast
mixed up
is,
with all
yes,
the,
exactly.
yeah, with all the
Yeah, yeah,
milk glands and
yeah. I mean,
everything.
what kind
So
of treatment did you go through at that time then?
well, I had to go through the whole thing. Well, not actually, not to I went through chemotherapy. I didn't have to go through, what do you call it, radiation.
Radiation.
I didn't have to do that because luckily I'd had it, as they said. They took out the tumor and they said it was so big, but it was capsuled, you know, so it was like sort of,
Encapsulated, yeah. It was
yeah,
closed off, yeah, yeah.
it was closed off. So I had been on treatment afterwards as well, but the chemotherapy, I didn't need the radiation because it hadn't sort of spread.
And the chemotherapy must have been horrible. I mean, you have beautiful hair. I mean,
Well,
I've
really
always
nothing
loved
left,
your
you
hair.
know.
Yeah,
Thank
but you
you.
always had this huge hair.
I
You
did.
know, I mean, did you lose your hair then?
Yes, I was completely bald and refused to actually be intimidated by it. I got a wig, as one does.
Yeah.
And then I remember going to a birthday party and I was on chemotherapy and you get tremendous heat flushes. I mean, really, it's like dripping wet. And I
Okay.
was just thinking, what if my wig starts like sort of sliding?
Sliding down.
Yeah. And I thought, you know what? No, 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 no. So I actually took off the wig and I went to a course called Look Good, Feel Better. And I learned how to put on makeup. Never used makeup in my life, but learned how to just do my eyes a bit, put on big earrings, and walked proud down the road,
Yeah.
bald as a
As an eagle, maybe.
or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Whatever you say.
And yeah, and I took care of myself during that period as well. I did whatever I could do. I went to a psychologist to deal with my psychological issues. I went to a zone therapist to sort of take care of some of the pains because it's very painful to get chemotherapy. I went to acupuncture. I tried to do everything that I could do. I ate very healthy. Of course, no alcohol or no other poisons because I was so toxic inside.
Yeah.
I walked down to my treatment, which is 5 kilometers. I don't know what that is in English, but around about a 5 kilometer walk.
3 miles roughly.
Yeah, so 3 miles back and forth. I walked down, got my chemotherapy, walked back home. Always wore one of these, what do you call it? These skrittzeller.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of a
Counters,
smartwatch.
how many steps you take, yeah, every
Yeah,
day.
exactly. And my aim was every day during the chemotherapy was 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
And more often than not, I actually reached that goal.
Yeah.
I trained 4 days a week. Went training literally from 8 in the morning until noon under supervision. When you're doing chemotherapy, you also have to, you know, we got our blood so it was through the hospital, but it was a strength training, so it was weightlifting, it was,
it's very important. Yeah.
Yep. So I did all these things, anything that I could do that was good for me to be able to have some control, I suppose, as well, because you lose all control. It's like, all right, I can't really do anything about the cancer, but I can do something about how I deal with the cancer. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you can't, if you don't like the conversation, then you can change, you know, so I could change the way that I looked upon it, and I could sort of give myself the best I was actually very fit at the time as well when I actually got cancer the first time, which I think actually helped because I didn't. The endorphin.
No. I mean, it is, if exercise is extremely important because it reduces inflammation, and inflammation is one of the things that cancer thrives on.
Okay.
So by actually reducing inflammation, you're actually helping yourself. I mean, that's why I'm trying to do as much as I can. I mean, my mom had cancer, you had cancer, I have some other friends that have had cancer. And of course, you want to try to reduce that, and by one of the things you can reduce is by doing regular exercise. Sauna use, eating healthy, of course, trying to strengthen your immune system, and just by keeping inflammation low, you have a slightly less risk of getting one of these 4 biggest killers, I mean.
My dear, I really have to say, it's very difficult because you have no idea. I was very, very, as I said, proactive. So I was at all these talks from doctors.
I mean, it's just one factor, of course. It's only one little factor, yeah.
No, but I know it's quite funny because in the very beginning, when I was diagnosed, I went to this big about breast cancer with a lot of specialists and stuff, and they were really good ones. I mean, the top ones in Denmark, the oncologists, and dealing with this. And they were sort of saying all the risk factors and all the stuff, and very much along the lines as you're saying. But you know what? I think we were probably about 100 women. I dare say there was 80 that said, but I've never smoked, or I've never this, and I've always been healthy, and I've always this. It's very, very strange, this thing, because they also say breast cancer comes like in their 40s. It has to do with they can say genetics is one thing that it could be, but it could be other things. And after sort of the 45, 50s, it's more a lifestyle thing. And it's just really weird because I don't know. I don't think there was a lot of people that said to me, a lot of my girlfriends were like, oh, just think positive. I could have killed them. I could have like sort of slapped them. And I say, are you telling me that because I'm a realist or something that I've put this onto myself, that just because I'm a bit more of a worrier, that I've given myself cancer? And I said, bugger off.
But everybody has a certain idea. Everybody has somebody, they can suggest anything. If you've got a backache, I've had a backache, you just do this and this and this. I mean, it's not that simple.
That's my point. My point is that nobody actually, and especially with cancer, because that's one of the biggest researchers in the world, if they could cure cancer, you'd be a multi-billionaire.
They spend trillions on cancer research.
Exactly. So I think, I just think, and I always say to people when they talk about cancer as like being this, that, or the other, I always say, careful, because there's somebody out there who's sitting there listening, and maybe, I mean, it doesn't harm to eat healthy and train. And I did it myself.
It helps, it's more.
But it's not necessarily, like, it doesn't necessarily say that you will never get it.
No, it might, it might be a tiny little bit reduction. And of course, a positive attitude helps with everything in life.
Yes. And, yes, because it makes it easier to get through whatever you're getting through anyway.
If you're depressed or whatever, a positive attitude helps.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily cure the problem, but it actually helps to cope with the thing also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I found good things to do in the whole time with chemotherapy. I did gardening because I did my walks because then at least I was using my body, and it's so painful. I mean, I have to say, chemotherapy is very, very painful. And I mean, they nearly kill you every time. That's the whole part of it.
It is poison. It is a poison that was invented in the First World War to kill soldiers, and they realized, yes, exactly. It's the same chemical still. And what a wonderful man in
Jimmy, get away! He's in his underwear.
It doesn't matter. The world to see that. That's what it's all about, man.
He's writing.
But it is
finding your brother and biological family. He's saying.
No, but it's not something it wasn't something you had, because of course you were adopted, but it wasn't something that was running in your biological side of the family, was it? Do you know?
Well, then actually, that's exactly what Jamie was writing. I found for my 50th birthday, I just said to people, the only thing I need to do is go over to the States. Jamie's father my husband's father did a lot of, what do you call it? Gene finding his family, the family tree, basically.
Yeah.
And he always thought that my story was interesting, and if I wasn't interested, and I said, you know what, I've had a really good life. I've had a mom and dad that loved me. My father passed away very early though. So, but my mom and dad, or certainly my mom, she's really always been a fantastic woman. She's always supported me.
Yeah.
A poor woman, again, back to I wasn't easy to support, but she actually did, you know, when it really mattered, she was always on my side. And when I was 50, we went to the States, or 51 or whatever it was. And I put in an application to the adoption agency. I knew where I was adopted. My mom has always been open. When I was 4 years old, they'd had a debate, my mom and dad, should they tell me if I was adopted or shouldn't they? And I think it was a very good move that she told me already at a young age. I grew up knowing, you know, I'm adopted, so what, you know? And my mom, the story she told me was, we came into this big room and there was all these babies, and then the most beautiful one in the middle with these big blue eyes, that was you, and this curly hair. And so we chose you. You're chosen, she said to me, as opposed to the others that just sort of get pregnant and get babies.
Yeah. And then what
you know, I was like,
I
am.
Yes.
You know, I was very,
Sometimes
exactly.
you wish you could choose your children, but you can't, can you?
No.
You have to love whatever comes out. Yeah.
Exactly. You know? No, but what she did was she made me feel special.
Yeah.
I walked out in the streets and I was like, I'm chosen, you're not, and stuff.
Yes,
And
exactly,
my mom said it took 2 hours. She lived in this, or we lived in the States.
Yeah.
And she had all the ladies wanting to borrow a glass of sugar or a cup of sugar, and then asking, oh, by the way, we hear Monica's adopted. You know, they were nosy as.
Yeah,
you know.
of course people are, you know, they're always in other people's lives.
Yeah.
So
my mom, I grew up. Sorry, I grew up with that knowledge, and then I put in this request in the adoption agency, filled out a hell of a lot of papers. At the time, in '63, where I was born, it was the parents' rights that was protected. So I didn't have today it's the child. So the child, if they want to know, you can find out. But those days it was the other way around. They had to sort of find the parents if they could, if they were still alive and all that stuff. And then they would have to ask and get consent from the parents. So I waited a year, forgot all about it. And on the day my real mother, which is my adoptive mother, she's my real mom, the day she actually died, I open up my email and I see that there's a letter from this woman that says she's my biological mother. And I was like, whoa, that was so weird.
Yeah.
That was really, really, really odd. And I said to my husband, my partner, and I just said, you know, like, oh, I can't deal with this. But of course I got curious. I had to sort of look it over. We'd just been saying goodbye to my mom and, you know, cried and sat on her bedside for hours. And I just had to write this woman, Barbara was her name, and sort of say, you know, my mom just passed. I'll get back to you soon. But I did get in touch with her, and we wrote back and forth. And then she was in the States. And she'd never been able to get any other children than me. So even though she got married, I was her only child. And she, of course, didn't know. And I wrote her a long letter saying, hey, you know, my name is Monica. If you're out there, you know, I'm not out to disturb you. I don't want anything from you. I just want to tell you that thank you for giving me this opportunity, because I dare say giving up a child is the most hardest thing you could do in the world, kind of thing.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And basically, I told her about my lifestyle, and I sent a little leaflet, you know, a little one of these albums you can make online with pictures of me as a baby growing up and pictures of my family in Alexander.
Yeah.
But her brother is the only one in her family on that side that had cancer. And on my father's side, which I found a couple of years later, which I still have really good contact with, there's no cancer in the family. So in my case, it's not genetic.
Yeah.
It's not and sometimes, and I do think that it's our way of living today as well. I do think like pesticides, and I'm not sure, but I was just thinking, you know, when my mom, I don't know, but when my mom, you know, she didn't lose as many friends, put it like that, as I have seen in Christiania, round and about. Everybody, it's like 1 out of 3 gets cancer or is
it's on its increase, and they think that might have something to do with you know, the introduction of modern farming and 12,000 years ago. I mean, one of the first histories of breast cancer was the Persian queen, 500 BC.
Oh.
And she was actually discovered that, and that was breast cancer, and she had really not good-looking breasts. They were really full of lumps. And her slave actually cut off one of her breasts, and she survived. Yeah. And it's actually in the history books. And so it existed already then. And they found it in mummies too, I mean, cancer. So it has been around. But I mean, the incidence is increasing with our lifestyle.
I
And it
think
is
so.
called a
Yes.
lifestyle-related illness to a certain extent today, together with Alzheimer and diabetes too, and dementia, and cancer is the other one, and heart disease. So these are lifestyle-related illnesses because lifestyle has an influence on it. But not to say that you have lived unhealthy, because I know you live healthy and so on. There's so many
But,
factors playing in there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, there is. Yeah.
But I mean, you got treatment and recovered from it, but it came back again, didn't it?
Well, luckily, there's two ways of looking upon it. One is called that it comes back, but that would be that it metastasized, which it didn't. So what happened was I got a new case, in the other breast. The first one, I had a mastectomy, so I got that taken away because it was big. And then I started having symptoms again. I was extremely tired. I just got a new job. So I thought, well, it's normal to get tired. I was in a manager position. So there's a lot of things happening, and you need to.
Some of the same symptoms again, tiredness.
But again, the tiredness came in this extreme form. And then after 3 months, I just went to the doctor and I said, you know what, this is, I have and I started being itchy. That's how it was. I started being itchy on my breast. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and get this checked out. And they actually looked at the scar of my mastectomy and said that I had a rash. So they wanted to check out that. They were more worried about that. But it turned out that I was right. Again, I found out. Yeah. So they actually found it in the other breast. And I had a choice of actually doing the mastectomy or just doing a lumpectomy and a radiation. Yeah. And I said, you know what, get rid of it, because half of the cancer thing is the psychological effects.
You don't want to have to go and worry again. I mean, if you can get
it's so much worry. Every time you have a pain in the finger that goes on for a month or something, you're sort of thinking, oh my God, has it spread to the bones?
Yes.
It really is a mind
thing.
It screws with your mind, basically, to be very blunt. It really does.
Yeah. No, awful, man. I mean, you have, that was an awful time. And of course, then, as you mentioned earlier, basically, then your husband, he got a brain clot and also got ill. I mean, you've had to deal with a lot of bloody things.
Yes, and my mom with Alzheimer in between of that.
Yeah, exactly. All these kind of things, I mean, there has been quite a bit of stress involved.
Yes.
And with him and how I mean, you're an amazing woman, because I mean, you also have to cope with that, with your husband and having to deal with him and help him back on his feet again.
Yeah. I stopped work then. I just literally, because I've been through cancer twice at the time, I got I got cancer in the other breast in 2017. Got through that. I didn't have to go through chemo, but I have been on I've been on this anti-hormones, which is a quite heavy drug. Since 2008, which has done actually my bone density.
I don't have estrogen thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because the cancer type that I had feeds on estrogen. Yeah. So, but most cancer, or most breast cancer, like I think it's 75%, it's quite a high range that actually feeds off estrogen. So you get this medication, which is really, really, really painful as well. You get so many side effects from it, and one of them is that it eats up your body, and you can actually get ovarian cancer from it as well. So it's a lot of things. But then in 2018, I was just finished with my thing the second time. Then my husband, that's never ill, gets it. Gets a blood clot in the brain, and was in a coma for more or less 5 weeks, induced coma, and had 5 operations in the brain, and it got put in a shunt. And really, he wasn't paralyzed. He got paralyzed in his throat. He had to be
where they stick a tube in.
Yes, exactly. I didn't know if he was ever going to be able to eat again. But I have to say, to take my hat off for that part of our system, the neurosurgeons and the ergotherapists, they did a wonderful job. But I would say to all doctors out there, never underestimate the spouses or the people who actually know the patient, or never underestimate the patient themselves if they
No, but I mean, you can see the small changes that something was going on.
I could read him as a book, and I really did. I was the one that kept the doctors. So I just stopped work. my focus was there. I was 24/7 more or less, you know. The doctor really had to send me home every night to say, go home and sleep. We got this, you know. And I'm like, well, you sure you do, you know. I don't trust you guys. But they did do a good job with help from the spouse, you know, because I could give them different information that they couldn't find on on blood tests and scans and that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. I mean, God, I mean, amazing, really. I mean, and also then, of course, I mean, he recovered. He had 2 years of rehab, didn't he?
Yes.
There were so many things you had to take care of there, I can imagine.
Still is, you know, it still is.
Yeah.
He's luckily.
Yeah, we did see him in his underpants earlier, so you know, he looks quite fine now. I mean, definitely a lot better.
He had it in his cerebellum.
Yeah, balancing and fine coordination of movement. That's what that is involved with. Yeah.
And of course, it has affected his brain in certain ways. But he's cognitively, I mean, his memory is still better than mine. He still beats me in word feud and all these things. So you know, he's still there, and which is good.
Of course, which is extremely important. I mean,
so he's still my husband. He's more of him, I would say. Of course, there's an injury that he's living with, and that he goes to physiotherapy once a week. I got him that, so he gets free physiotherapy once a week, where he's working on his balance, and he's also got, because of the nerves from the eyesight also is connected in that area.
Yes, fine-tuning again.
Yes, so he needs to learn like how to move around in traffic and all kinds of things. And I've been training with him, of course, because I see what the ergotherapists do. They've had 2 hours a day or a week with him, and then, you know, I do the rest, you know, because anything that I can give him.
I mean, you take the responsibility on, and you really work your guts out, helping to improve these things, and that's what's so amazing about you. I mean, you really fight on. Doesn't matter what comes in your way, you just get into it, you know, pull up your sleeves and then get stuck in. I mean, that's just wonderful. I mean, then also, as you said early on, your education, I mean, you kind of popped out of school and had then to take your folkeskole, as we call it here in Denmark, your first and second schooling?
No, I I dropped out. I think it was in 6th grade. I did my 6th grade finished.
So it was just the last few years of
the last 3 years. I had to go up in all the exams, you know, orally and written. And I got taught. I have to say, you know, I do believe in, not everybody's ready to do things. You know, life happens, and if you're not motivated, you won't do well in anything that you do. If you're motivated, that's where it comes, you know? And I was motivated when I took it. So I took all my exams. I think it was 16 exams I had to take orally and written. And I did it in 6 months, and I got top marks, you know, because I was motivated.
Yeah, you wanted to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. I was ready. You know, come on, bring it on. You know, I can do this. I had nothing to do with
it doesn't really matter. Better late than never, you know, and you went for it.
And I meant it when I said it. I would take it because I didn't want to. You know, it wasn't because I was a drug addict or because I wanted to drop out of society.
You just had other things to do. Yes, you just wanted to. You have it. Yeah, but you
life had thrown me a curveball.
The experiences you had with your life and so on, which many people will not have.
No, exactly.
You know, you have lived. Exactly. So, and also you then went on to do your degree in leadership and communication and coaching and so on. I mean, you really have gone for it. And what are you doing? Management and teaching of social behavior.
That was my degree, yes. And then I went on and took a degree in supervision of violence, supervising or having coaching, I suppose you would call it in English. So
it was really important for you to get an education, really.
Again, it was something that just happened because suddenly I just got tired. I get tired of, you know, I like to explore. I like to widen my horizon of knowledge and stuff. But, you know, I got bored with the hippies. I got bored with smoking joints. I thought, done that. It doesn't really give me anything. No. Also, you get pregnant and you have to start thinking, you know, all right, now I have another life to think about. I have another responsibility. So I stopped smoking.
Transforming your life again, you know.
Yes. And then, you know, you have to reinvent yourself in a way. And, you know, find, okay, what would be interesting? I've always, again, been social, outspeaking, love people, love different kinds of people, respect people from all layers of society.
And I
thought, you know, what can I do? So then that's why I suppose I chose that. But again, life can sometimes be coincidental in a way.
Yeah, it is, because you can see what you've been up against. It wasn't something you chose to go through. It's something that just happened, and you make the best of it.
Exactly. You have to
And we all do that with our
yeah,
ups and downs. I mean, we just have to pull our sleeves up and move on,
yeah,
really, and
yeah,
take it as an experience, and yeah, as you say, move on, really.
yes, yes.
I mean, I mean, you has all these kind of experience, has it given you a different outlook in life? I mean, the cancers and the way you would the way where you live now, and I mean, you are in Christiania now, I can
Yes.
see, yeah,
Yeah.
with home and so on. I mean, what is your future plans? I mean, what do you still want to educate yourself more, or what?
Yes.
I mean,
I
you are a
love it.
mature woman, like I'm a mature man today,
That's mature is only a number. That's just a number. Yes. My next plan is actually I'm starting now. I'm getting some more energy back. I've just,
Yeah.
as you know, I came to you for some help because of some body issues that I had.
Yes, that was kind of a worrying thing too, because I mean, you had then
Yeah.
starting getting migraines and headaches and back pain and so on, and I can remember that that is worrying in itself because of what you've been through in the past.
Yes. And you should take anyone with cancer out there, anything that lasts more than a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Plus, you're actually really
At least
meant
we found there
to
was a
get it
different
sorted.
reason for your headaches and your back pain and your dizziness and so on, and it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with your previous problems.
No, not, but I do think it had to do with has to do with the medication. I
Yes,
have
yes,
actually, at the moment, I've
no,
stopped the
definitely.
medication
Yeah.
that I've been on for 11 years. I went to the oncologist here a couple of weeks ago and I said, you know what, if I'm not going to become an invalid, because I got scanned in the head, I got
Yeah.
scanned, my whole body scan, everything was sorted out, and they found out I don't have, what do you call it, osteoporosis?
Yeah, osteoporosis, brittle bone disease, yeah.
Yes, I don't
Called
have that.
osteoporosis in English.
But I do have a generation from my degenerated spine. I have degenerated my neck, my chest, my
But
shoulders.
degeneration is wear and tear, and a 40-year-old car is a bit worn also, isn't it?
But this is more than that. I mean, even doctors that I've been to, because I have a physiotherapist, I have a chiropractor, and I have to say that you're far away. It's a 3.5 hour drive to your.
You can't pop into my office.
And they all say that it's very rare. Even the oncologist said it's very rare to see how brittle or how my all the way from the neck and down. But they say I've also been on this medication for 11 years. Normally it's 5 years.
Yeah, and you're off that now, aren't you? You off the
medication? I agreed with them. I still have 1.5 years literally left of because of the second. Incident. So I still have 1.5 years left. But I said I would like to try and see if it helps the pain stopping the treatment. And I would want it to go 6 months to see if I can sort of, if I feel better, and then I will make a decision. If
slowly bring it down, the medication, and
I've stopped it. I've stopped it.
Yeah. Okay. You stopped it already now. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't, I'm in my neck and my shoulders and my upper back, my spine and my.
Does that make you feel better than stopping the medication? Do you feel that, the difference?
Well, after 11 years, I do believe it goes some months. It has to go some months before everything is out of my system. And I haven't been able to do very much training, which is really depressing because it hurts. I mean, yesterday I washed the floors and today I'm ruined, so I need to strengthen again.
You need to go back to fitness and strength training and so on.
Yeah, and Corona doesn't help, so I need to be better at doing it at home, finding the programs,
I mean, at least the gyms are open where I go, and I try to go.
The gyms are open, but I don't want to go to the gym. I'm really, because I don't know, I know that my husband might be in the risk group.
Yeah, he's a little bit more in the risk group because of what he's been through. Yes, of course.
And me, I have to say, I mean, he works, he's back at work at the same job that he had, because I kept them updated and I kept on saying, look, he's doing great, keep him on the payroll,
So he can continue his life also. Yes, that's right.
But at the same time, I don't know if I'm in the risk. Some doctors say I am, some say I'm not. So I'm just taking it, there's so many things you can actually do at home anyway. I just have to get my act together and find the right balance to start, because I go in 150%, as you were in, you just say, roll up my sleeves and then I go for it. And I do. But that can also kick my butt sometimes, because I can be too eager you know, and then I overdo it.
things. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's a hurdle that I have to start slow and say, you know what, some squats. I did some squats. I did 70 squats, you know, I haven't done them for ages, and I was ruined. My back was ruined afterwards. You know,
Yeah,
instead of starting
start
with 10.
slowly and build it up slowly. Yeah,
Yes. Yes, sir.
basically, you know,
Yes.
that's the best way. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's been lovely to talk to you. You know, I really
Lovely to
enjoyed this
talk to you,
talk
Tony.
here. And I mean, if you, not necessarily, I mean, because you've had a really interesting life, I mean, would you redo things? I mean, would you have done things differently in your life? You know, if you
It's
met
a
your
good
old,
question.
let's say if you met your own old 20-year-old self, I mean,
Mm.
yeah, now what would you tell that person? I mean, would you say that, hey, don't do this, do that, you know, take a different path in life, or I know that's a
It's two
difficult
sides.
question, really.
It's two sides. I've thought about that, of course, but at the same time, I'm quite proud of who I am in a way,
Yeah,
you know, because
but
I
it
mean,
makes
I'm
you
not necessarily, I'm sad that I haven't achieved more in my life, I have to
but you
say.
have
But
achieved plenty, I can tell you that.
you
You
know,
know, I
I
mean,
want
it's
more
not.
money. I want more. I would like to have gone further with my career, put it like that. Not more money as money such,
No,
but
no, I understand what you mean. You know, I do
yeah,
understand what
I
you
would
mean.
like to be more, because I've had so many breaks in my work life that I just sort of lost a little bit of faith in myself that, you know, can I really do still what I want to do?
You could do
You
anything
asked
you
me what
want.
my plans were for the future.
Yeah,
I'm going to build my house. I'm going to expand my house now. So I've
yeah.
already started that process.
Okay.
And yes, I would like to take more education, because on the other hand, I don't feel that I'm done yet.
Now,
If
so
I
you
would
can have a
tell
guest
anything,
room. So you're going to have a guest room so I can come and stay. Yeah.
yes, 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 absolutely. That's exactly what we're missing. But I would have told my younger self to just live your dreams. You know, if
Yeah.
there's something that you really feel like doing, be true to yourself and trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because if there's something that anyone, as I said to my son when he asked me, should I be a doctor or should I be a lawyer? I said, well, you know, you're not really the most empathetic person, but you're very brainiac. So I think you should be a lawyer. I mean, he's a lovely son, but you
Yes.
know,
Yes. Yeah.
he's more logical and he's more
Yeah.
intellectual.
Yeah.
So I said, I think the lawyer would be good. But if it made you happy cleaning toilets, then do that, because
Yeah.
whatever
No, it's
makes
all
you
about
happy, don't
happiness.
do
That's
anything
right.
just for the money or
Yeah.
just for status.
Yeah.
Do it because it's something that you feel like doing, something that makes you happy, because you have to live with that for the rest of your life. And
That's
that
right.
I would have told my younger self.
Yeah. But what a better way of stopping this conversation we've had here, this interview. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you, Monica.
Likewise, Morten.
You
Hope
know,
to see you soon.
yeah, basically, you know, so you can just hang on a second.
Alrighty.